Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the May 19th Alabama chapter meeting. I'm Tom tonight with the Tuscaloosa West Alabama section. I'm currently the chairman there. Paul and Justin aren't here today. I'd like to start with the pledge. If you please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Would somebody like to lead us in the invocation?
Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to serve your people and all people and to be able to take care of them. Please help us to have an understanding of what it is we need to do. Thank you for the food that we're about to receive in our bodies, and that we will be able to celebrate you in the same pray. Amen.
And I'd like to welcome Mr. Bruce Henderson and presentation to pushing criminal prosecution for violations. Welcome.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. And for those of you who don't know me, I'd introduce myself to one of the groups here in Houston. I'm from Memphis originally, practiced law in a big firm in Nashville, and brought my practice down to North Alabama because I developed a big client base down here. So a very circuitous path coming here. But I want to thank y'all for having me here. My practice is limited to employment law representing employers, and I have a big practice in the construction industry too. Do a lot of work for ABC and especially in the Tuscaloosa group. We're going to talk a little bit about employment law. I'm going to give y'all just a taste of employment law, some other things that are going on that you need to be aware of and may be aware of and may not be. And then we're going to jump back into safety, because I know that each of you guys are safety directors. That's the main focus of your work. But all of this kind of comes together. I always like to kind of start my presentation off and ask, how are y'all doing? I mean, what an incredible, I mean, I usually get, that's about the tenor of it. It's been a really historic year for what we do. You know, we really have had a slice of history that we'll always remember. Remember when we started hearing about this infection in Europe and China and Asia, then it started moving over. I represent a lot of nursing homes. You remember what one of the first things to be hit was? Remember Seattle, the nursing home. And so that's when we knew it was real. Then the shutdown started, and it's just been kind of a collapse since then. COVID, it's over. You know, they declared the medical emergency over. So that's good the other week. But we still got other problems. I mean, are you guys and your departments and your clients, are y'all fully staffed? Yeah. Got it. Everyone you need. No, it is not just you guys. It is a nationwide problem. We can't get workers. Workers are quietly quitting at their desks. And I was talking to y'all earlier, I represent a lot of municipalities. Oh, our police departments are under attack. I mean, that's just not the world I was raised in. I mean, you remember when we were little, we were told to really respect two groups of people. And that's who is the school principal and who else? Police officers. And it's just another world. And we're dealing with that in employment. Y'all come on in. We just now got started. And you know, we're politically divided. But anyway, you know, what a crazy year. And this is gonna kind of show y'all I'm very low tech. You know, are any of y'all you familiar with this? You know, I still call it the Twitter. So does that tell you what you need to know? Are y'all any of y'all on the Twitter? Well, this got Donald Trump. You know, before the election, remember he got banned from Twitter. It's a really kind of funny story, but he was banned from a really famous suit everybody in the world. Then Elon Musk bought it. Remember that? And you remember one of the first things he did is he conducted an online election to see if Trump should be restored to Twitter. You remember the outcome of that? It's really funny that people voting to keep him banned won by a slight majority. But then Elon Musk discovered some uncounted ballots. Was that on Twitter? Something like that. Isn't that pretty? Really funny guy. But anyway, we talk a lot about this. And there's a term called woke. And are y'all familiar with that? What it means is the meaning of it is we need to be awakened and attuned to social issues of inequality. That's basically what it means. Sometimes, so and this is fair. I've been guilty of this. Sometimes we may use a word that we don't know is offensive. And any of y'all stepped into something like that you didn't know? There's a famous thing that just happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago outside of Boston. Someone was applying for a position for a school superintendent job. Did you hear that? Made it to the final round, had his final interview, and he does like all of us do. What do? We write a thank you letter. Wrote a thank you letter to the 3 interviewees and said, I want to thank you ladies for the interview. I look forward to the opportunity for working for the West Springfield, school board and being your superintendent. I mean, it's all good, right? No. The school board withdrew his offer. They said the word ladies is a microaggression against women. I mean, do any of y'all, you still you go to church or refer to people as ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And I mean, to this day, that just happened April 3rd. A job offer was pulled from him because he didn't know he was using a word that was offensive to some people. And I think it's interesting, there was a follow-up article to this in the Herald. One of the 3 females on the interview panel said, it didn't offend me, but I'm just kind of deferring to my friend who did find it to be offensive. So isn't that interesting? I mean, there's some words that absent-mindedly we can use that are causing a lot of flow. Don Lemon, CNN, remember that? They were having a discussion about Nikki Haley, a female thinking about running for president. And, they were talking about she's 50. And remember, he famously said, well, women in their 40s, they're past their prime. Anybody here 40 or above? Anyone here 50 or above? Okay, we're not even going to go into the other one now, but again,
Good.
yeah, I think you can tell which ones may be, but again, I mean, what a generalization, and again, they're all trying to be sensational in the news, but we just had, you remember Bloody Monday about two or 3 Mondays ago when 2 lead hosts on electronic networks were fired within an hour of each other, which was interesting. But again, this lady saying, now look, you got to know, I'm an English major. Okay. I'm not a science major, I'm an English major. So I'm all about words. And I had to do some searching into this. Well, Stanford University, the most liberal college in Palo Alto, California, put out a list in December, 13 pages of harmful words. That includes the word man, which is okay. Okay, that's fine. But look at some of them. Pregnant women are now birthing people. Okay, which is going to be funny because I'm going to tell y'all about 2 new pregnancy laws Congress just passed. So I guess that's offensive. By Congress, but no, they're birthing people. They're trying to normalize phrases. Now, I've got a problem with pedophiles. I do. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not stepping on any toes, but the word now, because we don't want to hurt pedophiles, is they're minor attracted people. Okay, minor attracted people. I just saw someone sent me, I gave a presentation yesterday to our Tuscaloosa Human Resources group. And someone this morning sent me saying Connecticut just passed a bill using the word minor attracted person instead of pedophiles. So it's the trait. OCD, which I am, so I'm glad to see it. I'm detail oriented. I don't have OCD, I'm detail oriented. Master bedroom, that's an owner's retreat now, homeless or unhoused. And phrases like you quit beating a dead horse, that normalizes abuse of animals. I mean, that is the word we're living in. Okay, ready for this? Can you be disabled if you don't have a disability? Well, there's some people now, transableism. This is for real. This woman, I mean, you can Google her and look under body integrity identity disorder, believes She is truly a disabled person and has voluntarily confined herself to a wheelchair. There are now 3 reported cases of doctors performing amputations of people's limbs because they identified that they are handicapped. Is that not odd? Look at April 29th. This is for real. So in employment law, this is what we're dealing with. Okay. It might have been the Biden administration calling for change. We know that. He said, I'm the most union boss you'll ever have here. Named Marty Walsh, head of the United States Department of Labor, former head of the Boston Trades Council. He left his post to be the attorney for a labor union, the Hockey Players Association, which I find funny. This is supposedly going to be his replacement, Julie Sue from California. We'll mention her a little bit more. We're wondering, we're waiting on, are y'all still waiting on the overtime rules to drop? Have you heard about that? That they're going to reevaluate the amount for it to be, for someone to be exempt. Well, the Senate just can't wait. Bernie has already proposed a $17 an hour minimum wage. And look, I don't think there's anyone in the room that thinks $7.25. Is anyone even paying that little? I mean, it needs to be raised. And I'm not sure $17 is the right figure. We're still waiting on the overtime rules. They've said it was in April last year, then October, then they said May. So I think we probably will see something in the next 3 weeks. But the Department of Labor, their reports over OSHA, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. For those of you with HR responsibilities, there are 2 new posters that just came out for FMLA and then for workplace discrimination, the EEOC's new poster. You know how we know they're new? In those boxes in the bottom right corner. You know what those are called? QR codes. I didn't know that. I thought they were like Scanatron boxes. I didn't know what they're called, but they're QR codes. You know what happens when an employee puts his or her telephone up to the QR code and scans it? It takes them right to the Department of Labor site for Title VII, and they can file a charge online. They can get all the information they want about the FMLA. I think that's all great. But again, for those of you who with spillover HR responsibilities, there are 2 new posters that we need to start replacing. And as I said, there are going to be 2 more updated posters because of the 2 new pregnancy laws that came out. The Pregnant Workers Disability Act, which treats pregnancies like disabilities now. They haven't technically been covered under the ADA, pregnancy-related disabilities, but now they've made it the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. And then the Pump Act about women expressing and lactating at work. That's another law that's been passed. Well, here's the great news. OSHA and the EEOC are gathering together and targeting the construction industry. Are y'all aware of that? I mean, they came out with a joint statement, and I've got a handout for you guys here. This will be kind of a, and I'm sorry the people in Zoom can't see it, but again, this is just an example of what they're doing. They are sharing information and going after the construction industry. And that's just one example up in Nashville, where I'm from, where they are both OSHA and the EEOC are jointly going after the construction industry. That is something I want you to take back and read, because those are some things that can never, ever happen on our site. Okay, the use of racial epithets and failing to investigate. Those can never, ever happen on that job site. Okay. But again, every 5 years, the EOC comes out with a strategic plan. Y'all do that in your businesses too. You do strategic forecasting. Well, they've done it in January. They just came out with theirs, and they have made construction a priority. They've looked at the industry statistics of whites and males, and they're going after people. And they're also going after staffing companies, because if you tell them, hey, we don't want any women on this job, we don't whatever, they're coming after you and the staffing company. And they have made that a priority. And look at those settlements they've already reached with some companies and their staffing agencies. So again, just remember, we are equal opportunity employers. They've joined the assault. I mean, they're offering protections for people who believe they're retaliating. OSHA, we are a high hazard industry. So they are, and OSHA should be looking at us, but again, they're looking at it not just from a safety standpoint, but from an EEO standpoint as well. OSHA and unions, they go hand in hand. And we don't have a lot of time to talk about that, but I'll tell you, whenever I've had a union organizing drive, guess who shows up like 3 days into it? OSHA for safety practices. So again, a lot of motivation for us to keep our practices current. Okay, we all know OSHA can impose fines, right? And make us abate a problem if they find a violation that's either other than serious or serious. This year, every year they try and up the amounts. Now see that it's during COVID. I can't tell you that number 12,000, whatever it was just the going rate. I tell you, I represent a lot of nursing homes, and we really had a tough time during COVID because we ran out of masks. Remember, we couldn't get masks early on. Well, we have to do annual fit testing for every employee, and we didn't have the mask. 12,000 a pop. I mean, they were unrelenting about that. But you see, they've increased now, and every year they're probably going to increase about $1,500 going forward. So that's where they are. You see the willful or repeat. Ouch, 156,000. Okay, so again, more motivation for us to take our rules seriously. Look, they can even go for criminal violations. I don't know if y'all were aware of that, but here's when OSHA can impose criminal penalties. When an employer willfully violates an OSHA standard and an employee dies as a result. So really, they're really for death, fatality cases. But again, that willfully violated or giving notice of an unannounced OSHA inspection. I don't know how on earth we could do that, but or giving false information to OSHA, and no one does that, right? But again, the statistics are really increasing. I changed that slide this week because we only had the 2019 figures, and I think it's 4,000 people a year die. Now it's up to 5,100 a year die. So this is serious, but it's good. It's a good thing for us to take the workplace seriously. The construction industry, they have been going after willful violators. What's the #1 cause of citations in the South in construction? Trenching. Oh, I mean, it is a heartbreaker. But again, you look at here in Pennsylvania, 3 years ago, they upgraded to criminal citations when they discovered the company had not truly abated a prior violation. And we can't let things like that slip through the cracks. If we get through in an OSHA inspection, we got citations and we abate it and document it. Okay, that's when they go for criminal. Look at that. That was a provision for a $250,000 fine. I would not want to tell the owner of the company, hey, you need to write a big check to OSHA. Okay, Seattle, the same thing, a fatal trench collapse. The company, the owner was charged with a felony. This just happened 3 weeks ago in Utah. I tell you, I represent a lot of municipalities. Did y'all hear that on the news? Another trench collapse, an 8-hour recovery effort. I mean, it was so sad. I put it up here and I put his name because these are real people. And we all know that we're just not writing rules. These are real people who didn't come home after work. Again, instability of the ground around him hampered recovery efforts. So we're just waiting to see what happens on that one. And by the way, do we all know that OSHA changed the time on when to report fatalities? I gave this speech yesterday and someone still said 24 hours. I said, my friend, it's 8 hours. 8 hours, okay. Hospitalizations are now 24. Fatalities are 8. I had a case with, I guess last March at a manufacturing facility in Tuscaloosa, and it was a homicide and suicide. We still don't know what triggered it. It's the saddest story in the world. And I caught wind of it when I woke up at about 5:30, seen it on the news, and it had happened at like midnight. And I'm doing the math, and we had like 30 minutes left to call OSHA. Because let me tell you, the men on the ground, boots on the ground, they are in grief. They're in shock that this happened. So again, just keep that in mind. And if any of you had fatalities at work that you've had to cover, God, I hope not. It's really terrible. But again, criminal cases, foreman sentenced 1 to 3 years in prison for disregarding safety warnings. That was the foreman. You see, so OSHA really means business. The film director, I don't know any Allman Brothers fans here. Remember they were filming that movie in Georgia back in 2014, and they were doing a scene where this train came out of this mountain down the tracks. They were filming, they didn't know a train was coming. And 2 people jumped to their death. So look at that, pled guilty, 2 years in jail. So this is for real, another trench collapse. I mean, do we even need to talk about this? Don't lie to OSHA. I mean, this is just such a horrific example. They got some citations. They lied to OSHA about making repairs to a cargo tanker. Someone was seriously burned, and he told OSHA, no, my company doesn't have an employee. That welder, he was just an observer. I mean, just how much more wrong could this guy done? He said he used a lower explosive limit meter to test the tank for fumes prior to welding. Then it turned out the welder wasn't even certified to weld. I mean, good Lord. So anyway, I always kind of like this one. It's kind of a humorous one. In Alabama, there's a roofing contractor supervising a crew, and a thunderstorm came up. Well, of course, no one was tied off. Okay. But here it is. It's great. The owner said, oh, no, I was there. It wasn't that bad. Everyone was tied off, and I just purchased new fall protection equipment. So then OSHA said, let me see the receipts, and it found out he bought them like the day after the accident. So, oh Lord, please don't lie to OSHA. That's pretty bad. Again, asbestos disposal. Are you documenting your training? Are you documenting that you train your employees on these very important things? Cases all over. Even famous actors can get charged. Y'all follow the Alec Baldwin thing. What a mess. What a mess. But filming a movie and someone handed him a gun and it actually was loaded. And he said he didn't know it. Look at that. Turned over to the state district attorney, charged with negligence, involuntary manslaughter, could face up to 5 years in jail. And then, of all things, criminal charges were dropped because he has a defense that, look, he swears I didn't pull the trigger, it just went off. Well, I've never known a gun that could just go off if you don't pull the trigger. But apparently he got some expert that said possibly that could happen. So again, that's what's going on there. But now the federal courts are getting involved. Okay. When the new administration came in, they've got a new Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and he said the federal Justice Department, now we're going to, not just state attorney generals, we're going to start taking cases. And especially when they involve the environment, that's what they're doing. They're kind of saying, well, we've got EPA, so it's a natural link. So we're going to start charging them with federal violations. So let's see. What a surprise. First case was in Alabama. Okay. The 2017 incident in Helena, employee pulled into cluster of unguarded moving roller. And the government claimed the company had a practice of operating with the guard in the up position. I mean, look, I've been doing this for 40 years. And I've represented people in a lot of industries. And a lot of times we pull off the guards to clean. We forget to put them on for 5 or 6 years. Okay, it just can't happen. If this is happening, and we know we need to write up people for taking guards off. And I mean, write it up and make an example of them. Government took the position they knew prior injuries had occurred because of that. And with that Class B misdemeanor fine of up to $500,000. It is happening. The very first case the Department of Justice took is in Alabama.
On that case, that was just against the corporation of the company, not an individual.
Well, right. That's how it is. They'll typically find the company, although, OSHA and the Department of Labor have authority to go after individuals. And you noticed a lot of those earlier cases were against foremen and, supervised waivers, supervised probation for 2 or 3 years, but yeah, they go after them. Now the company is going to be responsible. And here's what happened in January. They actually got that case settled. Look at that. $242,000 in restitution, a fine of $167,000, companies 2 years probation. Wow. So again, they remain in business.
How does a company serve 2 years of probation?
Not if they have any other ones. violations, Equal Pay Act or OSHA. And let me tell you, they're all sharing information. They are, now that everything's computerized, it's right there. So, again, if something in Florida, this was the second case, failure to hold pre-job briefings. I just finished another fatality case, last year at a deconstruction site. And, they wanted to see all our pre-briefing or pre-work briefings. What do you tell the workers you can do, where to stand? Demolition work, you may be working over here. Okay, but you've got to be sure everybody knows that. Don't go beyond this tape. And we had a foreman who basically hand wrote a little notebook, told people this. So I was like, oh my God, but gotta hold pre-job briefings. And again, here was an explosion that caused 5 deaths, or we got 36 months on probation and a $500,000 fine. So the Department of Justice is going after those of you who work around combustible dust hazards. Don't try and conceal violations. They will find out. So again, evidence that supervisors falsified log books of cleaning filters, monitoring logs. If you audit and you suspect it, we've got to issue discipline, serious discipline for these cases, because you don't want the feds on your case. And in fact, this company was so bad, they sued them at an ethanol plant too in another state. So once you're on the target list, they're going to look at all your operations. So for those of you with multi-locations, you'll be very aware of that. Right now, they're taking on Amazon. Now, the Birmingham Amazon is not on their list. It's about 6 other warehouses. But for unsafe working conditions, ergonomic hazards, not reporting injuries, all these fulfillment centers is really where they're targeting. And look at that, look what they do. They compare the injury rates to industry standards. And look where Amazon, they say they're ranked. They have 7.7 injuries for each 100 workers. Industry average is 4. Serious injury rate, 6.8. And all other warehouses in the group, 3.3. So look, you need to be aware of what your industry standard is in terms of injury and serious injury, and see how you're doing. Look at that one in New York. They had a rate of 19.8 serious injuries per 100 workers. That's 3 times the limit. So again, do an audit and see where you stand in terms of whatever industry you're working in, and just be sure you're within the good numbers there. Again, so I've told you the horror stories. What do we need to be doing? Okay, safety directors. Regularly review and revise your operating procedures and safety manuals. We've got to do that. A lot of people have bought forms and maybe kind of tailored them a little bit. Be sure they are truly tailored for your operations. I told you about the fatality case I just was going and working on in just south of Birmingham. And they had a nice deconstruction plan that they bought offline. Just changed the name. What is the first thing OSHA requests when they come on site? Show me your plans. Show me your plans. And so that was kind of trouble. So review your procedures and your manuals. Address known and obvious workplaces. Your employees are probably telling you where the problems are, okay? And we just need to listen to them. Hey man, this machine, the guard keeps coming off, this is happening, it's spewing oil, it's doing this. Okay, we need to follow up on that as safety directors. I don't know how many of you have utilized Alabama Safe State. For a lot of my smaller employers, it is such a great option. It's free, and they will come out and do a walk around inspection. They're fantastic. There's only one catch. If they see something serious, you have to fix it, or else they will turn that over to inspection. Okay, they're a separate division from enforcement. So again, it's a free resource. Have them come out. They're outstanding. What are some other keys? Promptly address employee concerns. Like I said, if something's wrong, an employee is going to tell you, hey man, you need to look at that. Document the complaint and just say, so-and-so Bruce responded about the guard slipping off or dripping oil. I went out there on May 19th and we were able to fix it. We remediated the problem. Then, of course, I mean, I know all of you are doing it. We use different names, like toolbox meetings, tailgate, what do y'all call them? What do you?
Toolbox talk, yeah.
Toolbox talk. Houston, we just do them. And then do what? And then document. My mom's a nurse, you know, and she said they taught her the first day of nursing school. If you don't document it, you didn't do it. Okay, and so just keep that in mind as you do your tailgate, your lunchbox meetings. And look, it's not tough. It's just a topic a week. It doesn't have to be a 3.5 hour presentation. Here are the location of exits. Check to be sure that no exit doors is blocked. That's a meeting. Okay, I mean, it doesn't have to be a 3-hour thing, but do them and document. They want to see that you take safety seriously. When they decide to say, is this a serious violation or not? Be ready for a surprise inspection. Train your managers what to do if OSHA shows up. If they say, what's your name? Matt. Hey, I'm here from OSHA, see my badge and I need to inspect the machine. Okay, come on, let me take y'all back there. Come on. Yeah, you know, we've got that card to play. You need to be very judicious in playing that card. But again, we need to train them. Say, oh yeah, well, come on. And oh, why are you looking at that, man? You need to look at this one too. It is a mess. And I've complained and they said, so train them. Okay, to say, hey, Bruce, OSHA's here. We need to call, who do you want to be on site? I've always laughed. I've been doing these so long, you know, when OSHA would come out, I'd say, wait, I'll be out there. I'll make them wait. You can do that. You go, please, sir, have a seat. Have a seat, just be very nice. And then come, when they take a picture, I'm right behind him taking a picture of him taking the picture. If they've got video, and we've got cell phones now, it's a lot easier. You know, we take that video too. We know we have the right to sit in on management interviews with OSHA when they come out. We know that. We technically cannot sit in on an employee interview because OSHA thinks they'll be intimidated, but you never know. That employee may want to hire you to sit in with him or her. You just never know. But be sure under any circumstance, ask that employee to get a copy of his or her statement. Okay, because if you don't know what they do. Okay, so be sure, say, listen, OSHA's going to investigate. I want you to be truthful and honest, but when you sign it, I want you to be sure you get a copy of your statement. Okay, so always be sure to do that. And then of course, I don't know how y'all collect your safety meeting notes, but have those ready just to lay them on OSHA to say, yep, here they are for 2023. You want 2022? So have those easily accessible because that's gonna be one of the first things. And again, the most important thing, and it's not what any of you want to hear, no one likes it, but we've got to discipline for safety violations. We have got to. I have, and you'll just think I just have that wherever I go, there are fatality cases, but unfortunately I've had a lot of in the area. I was working for a road paving company, and you know, when they grind up the asphalt, then there's another truck behind it with water and that kind of stuff, and they go about 1 mile an hour. And they were doing a change out, and so the guy in the water truck behind the grinder was slapping his truck into neutral to go do something. It did not go into neutral. It went into drive, and it was a fatality, and it was terrible. Why am I telling you this story? Because after all of that, and all these managers and supervisors and foremen crying on the scene about how bad it was, I went out to another job site to say, okay, show me how this happened again so we can be sure. Guess what we saw 3 workers doing while we were there? I mean, in the span of 5 minutes. Walking between 2 moving vehicles where an employee had just been. So out come the discipline forms. I mean, boom, boom, boom. Okay. And no one likes to do it. It's simple. On that slide is a generic form, but you've got to do it because just talking to someone, it's not going to count as discipline to OSHA. Last OSHA tip, again, I've got a bunch of last OSHA tips because I've learned so many lessons over the last 3 years. They'll be back. They will be back. Last year, I told you we had those fatalities in the nursing home, and so they wanted all our fit testing records 3 months later. After we signed the paperwork that we're abating it, we've done all of this, they came out to look at all our fit test records. Thank God we did it. Again, the murder, suicide, that kind of thing. They wanted to see our emergency response policy. And had we done active shooter training? Oh my God, we had. Yeah. Okay. So again, you want these policies in place. You don't want to learn through a terrible disaster. Yet another OSHA tip. This is one I learned at another safety meeting conference. Don't assume everyone can speak English. I mean, it was everyone in the room. There were about 40 people. They were stunned. They go, "What do you mean?" They go, "Yeah, you always have the one crew member who can translate for you. We've all got them. We do." And we assume he's saying the right thing. But one of the safety guys said, "No, man, let me tell you a story. I'm fluent in Spanish." And this guy told him wrong. So be sure that the person who is doing the translations for us is a credible translator. NLRB is changing rules. Any other questions about safety? I think that's it. I've got just about 5 minutes. I was going to spend on some other stuff. The National Labor Relations Board talking about, relations between companies and unions, but they also say all employees have rights under the National Labor Relations Act to discuss terms and conditions of employment, whether you have a union or not. This is a decision that came out May 1. Okay. And it's what I talked about to the groups back in 2015 to show you how politicized the National Labor Relations Board is right now. See that post there, Bob, this employee was mad and he posted this thing, his boss is such a nasty, and it starts with an F. Don't know how to talk to people. F his mother, F his entire family. What a loser, and vote yes for the union. Company did what? What did Bob do when he found out about it? Fired him. Labor board said no, because look at that last sentence. Vote yes for the union. So it was in the context of union organizing. And so they said, even though that was an outburst that was profane, it was in relation to a union election, and they ordered that guy reinstated. Can you imagine on your job site if somebody did that? So then that's in 2015. Then the Trump comes in, and how the labor board works. There are 5 people that are assigned to the National Labor Relations Board, and the party in power gets to choose 3 of them. See, that's why they're so politicized. So during the Trump years, they went back to no, that guy's fired. Fired, that's fine. Well, now we're under the Biden administration. They've got 3 of the 5 appointees to the National Labor Relations Board. Look what they just said about this. An employee used profanity, got out of line, and it was in connection with the safety issues. But I mean, given his boss and his supervisor down the road, the company threatened to fire him. He had another outburst about the safety thing, and they fired him. Look at May 1st, the labor board said, no, employers, you have to expect some of that. So we've been telling y'all all along, if the employee uses profanity, if they do this or that, you can terminate. Now the labor board's saying, well, we're going to examine to see if you can do that. Was it in connection with safety? Was it in connection with wages or overtime? See, it's just a loaded world out there. So again, when someone comes up and gets in your face, you may want to think about it. So that attorney said, well, maybe we need to look at the setting. So again, for those of you, I'm assuming we're all non-union here. Is that right? Some, you go, oh, look at you. Look at those smiling faces. So you know what we're talking about. When you're in a unionized operation, employees have what's called Weingarten right. That's where they suspect that discipline may come from an offense, and they have the right to have a witness to deal with it. Labor board won't say all that. It doesn't matter if you're union or not, everyone has that right. So we're headed that direction with the labor board. What else I can get? A new general counsel. I mean, they're coming up. I'm going to talk about this and I'll close that. They want to change the rule about, if any of you have been through a union organizing campaign, we do a lot of those. I do a lot of that. We have had a right under Section 8C of the Labor Act to meet with our employees and discuss the benefits and the negative parts about being in a union that unions don't tell you, like you got to pay dues. You go out on strike, you don't get paid. You go out on strike, you don't get unemployment. And if the union wins the election, it's not a referendum. You don't automatically get $30 an hour like the last union election I just had. The only thing you win is you get the right to sit across the table from me and ask for it. That's all you get. They think it's a referendum about, oh yeah, I want 20, I want 30 an hour. The labor board wants to take away employers' rights to hold those meetings with employees. Is that crazy? I mean, the union's been working on employees outside in secret for 3 or 4 months, and we're paying them. We can't call them over and give our viewpoint about the union. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Why do I bring that up? I had a union election, well, I guess it's 3 years ago now, with the plumbing company in Tuscaloosa. It is about 23 or 26 people in that bargaining unit. And I still remember it vividly because they filed the petition with the labor board the morning of December 26th. No, that's unfair. I'm still in the Christmas holidays and I get a call from a client. I'm still, full of Christmas food and opening gifts with family. We got this thing in the mail. So what is it? Well, it's one of those blue letter envelopes from the government, from the National Labor Relations Board. It's a petition the plumbers want to organize. And again, company had been doing it for months, and they even had a union salt. Have you heard about that? They put a union employee to go apply for the company and organize you from the inside. It was the darndest thing. It was such a difficult union election. But we believe out of the 24 people in the bargaining unit, 23 had signed union cards, union authorization cards. Okay. Now, if the labor board wants to do 2 things, first of all, they want to say you can't hold you can't have campaign meetings with employees. Okay. And they also want to have a rule that if there's a card, if they check cards and see majority of employees have signed cards, you've already got a union. I mean, it's so unfair for us because the unions have been working on them for months. But because we met each week, we have about 3.5 or 4 weeks to have a union election. We would meet with employees each week and talk about the benefits you enjoy now, union dues and strikes, and if the unions voted in, what happens? We won it 20-2. I'd love to pat myself on the back, but my point is, if the board changes the rules, that Turner Plumbing would be union. You see, so that's why we watch these laws. Union organizing's up, and But again, we are at risk. Unions are optimistic about it. And I think this is the last slide. The labor board is also making us do this. And y'all think about having to tell this to your boss that, hey, we were found guilty of interfering with the employees' rights to organize. The typical remedies are we put up a poster. We may pay back pay to some employee reinstating. Guess what they're saying we have to do now? Have the owner of the company stand up and apologize to employees and read the statement out loud. So how many of y'all would want to do that, to go to your boss and say, oh yeah, there's one more thing. You need to stand up in front of everybody and say, I'm sorry, we committed an unfair labor practice. And, again, so that's called the read aloud order. And look at that, they're doing it now. Read aloud the terms of the order to plan employees. And look at that. Public reading of notices is effective to stop it. So So anyway, I know we've covered a lot of stuff, employment and banned words and great OSHA stuff. Any other questions? I think we've got this passed out about one of the companies that you just settled for, what, 1.2 million out of Nashville for not investigating complaints. I guess the last thing I wanted to bring up is it's getting hot out there. Anybody notice that? And my clients have in warehouses. So again, does everybody, have their policies, written heat illness policies in place? Everybody? We know what we're talking about. Yeah, you need to have them because if an employee has an incident, they're going to come out and want to see it. One of the neat things is I was listening to a guy from OSHA talk, and I know all of you have this, and it's not the Twitter. Y'all got that, the heat index, the app. You can put it on your phone. It is really great. And see, it's showing us right now. Is it a caution? Is it a warning, or is it a danger based on temperature? And that's really good for you guys as you walk in and out of your facilities. It's an app. It's just, I think it's OSHA heat index, and just load it. And it's right here. So you'll know what steps you need to take. And I think the only other thing I have to say about, the heat index is, remember, there's the acclimation process. But sometimes we overlook two things: new employees like me, man, it's going to take me longer than 2 weeks to acclimate. Okay. And people returning from leave. Okay. So just as you implement your heat acclimation to get people back to work, remember, we may need to take that into account. People have been off work for a while. So any questions? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody. Hope you learned something. That is I wish I was thanking you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. It was opening and,
Yeah.
now, we normally hand out a little cup, but you'd have to go back to my house and get it off. We'll make sure that you get that eventually.
That is very kind.
We appreciate you coming out and speaking to us.
Thanks. Well, we all, that's a good thing. Everybody in the room takes safety seriously. When I talk to HR groups, if safety is not an issue of theirs, they tend to diminish it. And I go through, I had 55 people there said, how many of y'all are responsible for safety? And 3 people raised their hands. And what did I say? All of you are. And so it is. It's something that's why I appreciate what you guys.
Be sure to hang around and have lunch with us. We're gonna break for a few minutes and have lunch, and then we're gonna come back together and talk about some society business, and then we'll finish from there. So we'll take a pause on the Zoom.
Is that like the Twitter? Hey, man, how you doing? Oh, thanks. It's a scary one, isn't it? Yeah, working with just a moment.
Welcome back. On Zoom still?
Yeah,
Great.
it'll do.
Paul and Justin did leave me information on what they wanted to cover today. So I'll bring up a couple things that are coming up. Obviously, the national ASSP Safety 2023 conference is coming up in a couple of weeks, basically the 5th, 6th, and 7th of June in San Antonio. If any of you are able to go to that, it'll be a good Governor Safety Health Conference is coming up on the 20th, 29th, and 30th of August. The last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of August. Nobody at the beach. Beach is empty. A great conference. But after the conference, you go out to the beach, go to a restaurant, wait an hour and a half, 2 hours to get a seat, walk right in. And it's the largest health and safety conference in the state of Alabama, well attended by participants from all over the country. Recently, the West Alabama Tuscaloosa section held elections, and I'm happy to say that Matt Holland stepped forward to be your new chairman out there, and Kirby Holland, who's a safety engineer at Newport Hill, is going to be your secretary. And cover some additional.
Okay, sure. So for about the past 2 weeks, we've had the open election through the chapter. Everybody who's paid member should have gotten an email enabling you to go and affirm our slate of candidates. But we had a great slate this year, and apparently anywhere from 92 to 99% of the respondents felt the same. So as of July 1, we'll have a new group of leaders, which will include Tom Tenike as president, Justin Shepard as our vice president, Vince as our continuing secretary. Thank you very much. And Alan as our continuing treasurer. We thank you both. So congratulations to the folks who are now going to be part of our new leadership. And we're looking forward to what should be another great 2 years. We did have a election for the section, and I'm happy to take on the role of the chair for that. Got information that the Auburn Montgomery section had their elections, and Jessica Covington will be the new chair for that, and Emmanuel Winfred will be the secretary. So that's really all I have to report right now. I'm sure I'll have to check in with the student section and see what change has been made there, but that covers our professional sections.
Yeah. And thanks for staying on, Vincent and Alan, for your many years as treasurer, and Justin for the vice president. I really don't have a whole lot to say beyond this, other than enjoy your lunch. And
I've got one more thing.
one more thing. Okay. One that's.
We have been working on a survey, and we had it out there for a while now, trying to get some feedback on where we are with things. So we had 35 to complete the survey. We had a couple of incompletes. I'm not sure what happened there. All of us happen to be in the US, by the way, you know. The questions that we had: are you currently a member? So 34 of the 35 folks said yes. So we have one non-member. What is the preferred contact method? Email and newsletter. After putting this out, I'm thinking, well, we send our I think how direct information is what they're looking at there. Nothing on the website. And we probably could improve the updating of the website. We've got some tools out there we haven't really been using. So that's from my personal point of view, and I'm the person who's managing it. So, you know, we have something out there that we could make better use of. We regularly attend the meetings, about 50-50 there. So no, if you do not attend, why not? So there were other reasons than what we had, and we have the other listed below. Was the most for 14 people. Time of the meeting is an issue for some. Location of the meeting is for some. We've talked about, you know, that's one of the reasons you have the sections. One of the reasons you have things spread out. So we ought to look at that about whether we do meetings around that kind of thing. So if they said other, I just haven't been able to come, or I haven't come. I'm not going to go. We have another representative at our organization, so there's this kind of a split responsibility. So one person comes, but the other person doesn't. Business conflicts. Somebody's retired who's emeritus, but so they're a member, but they're not really participating in that way due to work schedule. I think we find that a lot where people are just not able to make it. Then the current work schedule. So I'm having to drive to Birmingham, and that's having to do with that location as well. So we put some things out here about participating in the meeting. What's why to participate? What's the highest rating? And this is kind of nice how they have the color coded here. So networking had the highest number in most important. So that's the to confer and to be able to talk to folks. Volunteering is in the middle there. Technical representation and the speakers is high, so that's good. We want to make sure that we have good speakers when we're doing this, or talking about good things. Scholarship was low on the totem pole. We do have some interest, but it has not been high. Again, that's another thing I think in the past we've emphasized it more, so it's something to look at. And then mentoring. We do have a lot of students who come and go as a part of this. So a lot of the people that are posted each month that say they're new to the organization are students, and then they kind of go away. So are they moving? Are they still in the area and they're just not participating? So that's something to keep in mind. Would you consider a leadership role? Had quite a few who said yes, so that's something that we can do and have those opportunities out there. What could we do to enhance the chapter meetings? More social events, which we have been talking about in maybe how we can bring people together. More workshops, more than just these meetings. Different locations, something to consider. A different time of day or week. Meetings are fine, great, and different lunch options. So it looks like just having more social events, giving people more opportunity is the highest one there. Do you have a technical talk that you'd like to present? So most people said no, but we do have some people out there who would like to, who have some things that they would be able to present on. And those are including pre-hire physical abilities testing, any subject related to human side of safety. So they're flexible, but if we need them, they'll come out. Slip sliding and falling away from your walking surfaces standards. So that could be interesting, except that having how it has to do with fall protection and so on. And OSHA is here now. What? So that would be Michael Reed says would like to do that one. So I think we can keep that one in mind. Anything else they wanted us to know? Nothing. We want to talk about the prayer and pledge of allegiance at the meeting. So that might be something we either explain or consider as a part of this. We want to continue doing that, however we manage that. Time is valuable, appears to be becoming even more valuable. I have to agree with that. It just seems like things are getting busier and busier as we go. Biggest concern is lack of participating in the local safety professionals. Is there a way to expand the mailing list? That is a good point. We need to be more proactive in finding people to send emails to. Do we need to have kind of an advertisement? Communication and planning are key to chapter success, very important. And then finally, a thank you for all those who have been managing it so far. So really appreciate that, whoever sent that comment. So that's what we have for the survey, and I'm sure as a team, we'll be looking at this and see what we can learn from it and how we need to proceed.
You can send me a copy of this. Can I make one comment? Comment you had for social events? We've done them in the past and not everybody's ever showed up. So if you'd like to have a great social event, let us know what it would be. So you would actually show up to it. Because we've done it in the past. At the zoo, we did the what? 50th of the ASSP organization. And except for vendors and executive committee, members really showed up for that. We've done baseball games down in the Tuscaloosa section. Again, except for the executive committee and their spouses and vendors, nobody showed up. So we've tried, but we haven't attended, unfortunately. So obviously we're not connecting with you on the right social event. Please let us know. Any other information from the group out here? Well, thank you all for attending this month's ASSP chapter meeting. We'll meet next month, June 23rd, I believe is the third Friday. Well, might be off a couple of days. Sounds about right. Thank you.
United Natural Foods Incorporated.